And Arkansas has played well this postseason. They've, in a year when no one has been that consistent, even in the SEC, they've been the most consistent, arguably, right? Where they've had some bumps, but every SEC team had a weekend or two like that. But their best has been better than anyone else's best when they've been at their best. They go 3-0 in their regional. Didn't really break too much of a sweat in that one. Wins over North Dakota State and Creighton, and then swept the Fayetteville Super Regional against Tennessee. And I think it's not just that they swept it; it's that in the second game it wasn't competitive. I mean, they just boat raced.
Yeah, they had Liam Doyle out of the game. The fifth inning?
Yeah,
into the fourth inning.
Yeah. Not even completed 5. So like they're playing really, really well right now. And yes, okay, this was not a vintage Tennessee team, but if you can do that to Tennessee in a Super Regional, you can win this thing and don't really necessarily have to do anything special or out of the ordinary. On the field, Vahiva Aloy is a guy to watch. I mean, that's a famous name. He's a Golden Spikes finalist, but he's a guy like when I talked about Iva Arquette earlier. First of all, 2 Hawaiians. How about that? But a guy who was a bat first infielder in his career, Sacramento State, his first year last year at Arkansas, was a guy with, he was bat first, so there were questions about his defense initially, a decent bit of swing and miss, but he showed that power. This year, he's kind of rounded into form. He's a very dependable shortstop. He's not swinging and missing as much. There's still a little bit in there, but the power has gone to a whole nother level. So it's been a really special season for him, and it feels like as dangerous as the Arkansas lineup is, and this is probably 1 through 9 the most dangerous lineup for my money here in this field. When he's going, they go. Like, he tends to be the guy that leads the way. When he's hot, it's really, really hard to shut them down. On the mound, Gabe Gackle is for me the guy. It's a little bit like we talked about, like an Ian May or Del Vecchio. Like how do they fold those pitchers in? I think it's the same thing with Gackle, where we know this stuff is electric. They tried to start him. It went okay. Like, it wasn't a disaster with him as a starter, but it just wasn't what he was as a reliever last year. So they move him back into the bullpen, and really ever since then, he's been awesome. He's been back to the Gabe Gackle we saw last year, and he's honestly throwing as many pitches as he did as a starter. It just so happens that he's doing it as a piggyback guy. And I just wonder kind of, will they take a wait and see approach? If Root gets through 7, right? Do you say, okay, let's try to finish this with somebody else so we can use Gackle in a situation where we need 4 or 5 innings, right? That's going to be a question for me because he is a very important.
I think with a day off, you got to go to your guy. I mean, if you have a chance to beat LSU, you've got to throw Gackle.
Yeah,
no question.
That's fair. And then comparing offenses to LSU, I think that's an interesting thing. I mean, because LSU ranks pretty high in a lot of offensive metrics, but I think when you put those 2 lineups together, maybe there's some dissenting opinions here, but like, I just think Arkansas is the more scary of the 2 lineups.
I agree.
Well, Bradley's got the numbers right there in front of him. I mean, Arkansas is way up at the top and across the board in almost every category, offense, defense, and pitching. I mean, it's really, they do feel like the most complete team. But what impresses you about that?
I mean, when you talk about the lineup and you look at, splits like versus righties versus lefties, that's like one of the main areas where when you look at the teams in this field, you see separation. Like, Arkansas crushes lefties, and they're very good against righties too. So it's a very balanced lineup. And then, you look at pretty much any metric, and it's like, oh, they're top 10, they're top 5, they're top 15. They just do a lot of things right offensively. They have a lot of thump. They have a lot of, I think in the postseason they've drawn 29 walks, struck out 32 times. Like, they're disciplined. They're good hitters. It's a scary lineup, especially when you pair it with the rest of that roster.
And I think that their ability to defend at an elite level also really stands out. And I think part of that, huge keys for Arkansas this year. You mentioned Aloy and his improvement defensively as a shortstop, way better than I thought he was going to be defensively.
Agreed.
But also Helfrich behind the plate, blue chip guy, Ryder Helfrich. They were very excited about him coming in as a freshman. Didn't really get, didn't have an everyday spot. I mean, they had Hudson White, they had, older guys in front of him. But he stayed the course. He stayed in Arkansas, and he's now become the guy. And he's so good at framing and stealing those strikes. Underrated part of I think, what makes that pitching staff good and what makes that defense good.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Helfrich that's impressive to me is I kind of thought, I'll admit, like, if he ends up meeting his potential or being close to it, it's going to be because he just rakes offensively. And the defense will be passable, right? Enough to play him back there every day, but his bat is what's going to carry him. I mean, he's had a nice year offensively, but he has turned into a well-rounded player for them. So, good player development story for a program that just seems like they have a lot of those every year.
Yeah.
In terms of how Arkansas wins this thing, I mean, this is going to be simple, but obviously that first game is so important. If you're going to win the College World Series, you kind of got to win that first game. Now, obviously, that's not totally true, but it just makes your life so much easier, and that means they're going to have to beat Kate Anderson, and that's tough. I like Arkansas to win the national title, but in saying that, I'm kind of also saying that I think they're going to beat Kate Anderson, and I'm not sure I feel as
And you
strongly
might have
about
to beat
that.
him twice.
Right. So, like, when I think about it that way, I'm not nearly as sure as I thought I would be going into it. But Zach Root obviously is right there. If he pitches like he did in the Super Regional, I think he's just as good. And I think he's a good match for what they're going to try to do here, which is, LSU likes to bail itself out with the home run sometimes. Well, he's a sinker ball guy. Like, he's a guy that's going to try to get ground balls. And if he can keep the ball on the ground, I think they're in good shape. I say all that to say, if Arkansas is going to win this thing, it's just be the best version of yourself. It's as simple as that. I think if Arkansas plays at its peak potential or something close to it, I think they win the national title here. I think they're the best team here.